This democracy, Walter said, cannot function without a reasonably well-informed electorate. That's why the honest, objective, meticulous reporting that so many of you pursue with the same zeal that Walter did is so vital to our democracy and our society. Our future depends on it. Walter was no naive idealist. He understood the challenges and the pressures and the temptations facing journalism in this new era. He believed that a media company has an obligation to pursue a profit. But also an obligation to invest a good chunk of that profit back into news and public affairs. He was excited about all the stories that a high-tech world of journalism would be able to tell. And all the newly emerging means with which to tell it. Naturally, we find ourselves wondering how he would have covered the monumental stories of our time. In an era where the news that City Hall is on fire can sweep around the world at the speed of the internet. Would he still have called to double-check? Would he have been able to cut through the murky noise of the blogs and the tweets and the sound bites to shine the bright light on substance? Would he still offer the perspective that we value? Would he have been able to remain a singular figure in an age of dwindling attention spans and omnipresent media? And somehow, we know that the answer is yes. The simple values Walter Cronkite set out in pursuit of: to seek the truth, to keep us honest. To explore our world the best he could. They are as vital today as they ever were. Our American story continues. It needs to be told. And if we choose to live up to Walter's example, if we realize that the kind of journalism he embodied will not simply rekindle itself as part of a natural cycle, but will come alive only if we stand up and demand it and resolve to value it once again. Then I'm convinced that the choice between profit and progress is a false one and that the golden days of journalism still lie ahead. Walter Cronkite invited a nation to believe in him and he never betrayed. That trust. That's why so many of you entered the profession in the first place. That's why the standards he set for journalists still stand. And that's why he loved and valued all of you, but we loved and valued Walter not only as the rarest of men. But as an indispensable pillar of our society. He's reunited with his beloved Betsy now, watching the stories of the century unfold. With boundless optimism every so often punctuating the air with a gleeful "oh, boy." We are grateful to him for altering and illuminating our time. And for the opportunity he gave to us to say that, yes, we, too, were there. Thank you very much. Barack Obama. Weekly address honoring Iraq War troops and veterans. Delivered December 17, 2011, The White House, Washington, D. C. This week marked a historic moment in the life of our country and our military. For nearly 9 years, our nation has been at war in Iraq. More than 1.5 million Americans have served there with honor, skill. And bravery. Tens of thousands have been wounded. Military families have sacrificed greatly, none more. So then the families of those nearly 4,500 Americans who made the ultimate sacrifice. All of them are troops, veterans, and their families will always have the thanks of a grateful nation. On Thursday, the colors our armed forces fought under in Iraq were formally cased in a ceremony in Baghdad before beginning their journey back home. Our troops are now preparing to make their final march across the border and out of the country. Iraq's future will be in the hands of its own people. R. War there will be over. All of our troops will be out of Iraq. And this holiday season, all of us can finally say, welcome home. This is an extraordinary achievement, one made possible by the hard work and sacrifice of the men and women who had the courage to serve. And there's a lesson to learn from that, a lesson about our character as a nation. See, there's a reason our military is the most respected institution in America. They don't see themselves or each other as Democrats first. Or Republicans first. They see themselves as Americans first. For all our differences and disagreements, they remind us that we are all a part of something bigger, that we are one nation and one people. And for all our challenges, they remind us that there is nothing we can't do when we stick together. They're the finest our nation has to offer. Many will remain in the military and go on to the next mission. Others will take off the uniform and become veterans. But their commitment to service doesn't end when they take off the uniform. In fact, I'm confident the story of their service to America is just beginning. After years of rebuilding Iraq, it is time to enlist our veterans and all our people in the work of rebuilding America. Folks like my grandfather came back from World War II to form the backbone of the largest middle class in history. And today's generation of veterans, the 9/11 generation of veterans, is armed with the skills, discipline, and leadership to attack the defining challenge of our time. Rebuilding an economy where hard work pays off, where responsibility is rewarded, where anyone can make it if they try. Now it is up to us to serve these brave men and women as well as they serve us. Every day, they meet their responsibilities to their families and their country. Now it's time to meet ours. Especially those of us who you sent to serve in Washington. This cannot be a country where division and discord stand in the way of our progress. This is a moment where we must come together to ensure that every American has the chance to work for a decent living. Own their own home, send their kids to college, and secure a decent retirement. This is a moment for us to build a country that lives up to the ideals. That so many of our bravest Americans have fought and even died for. That is our highest obligation as citizens. That is the welcome home that our troops deserve. Thank you. Barack Obama. Weekly address, a new chapter with Cuba. Delivered February 20, 2016. Hi, everybody. This week, we made it official, I'm going to Cuba. When Michelle and I go to Havana next month, it will be the first visit of AU. As president to Cuba in nearly 90 years. And it builds on the decision I made more than a year ago to begin a new chapter in our relationship with the people of Cuba. You see, I believe that the best way to advance American interests and values and the best way to help the Cuban people improve their lives is through engagement by normalizing relations between our governments and increasing the contacts between our peoples. I've always said that change won't come to Cuba overnight. But as Cuba opens up, it will mean more opportunity and resources for ordinary Cubans. And we're starting to see some progress. Today, the American flag flies over our embassy in Havana. And our diplomats are interacting more broadly with the Cuban people. More Americans are visiting Cuba than at any time in the last 50 years. Cuban-American families. American students, teachers, humanitarian volunteers, faith communities. All forging new ties and friendships that are bringing our countries closer. And when direct flights and ferries resume. even more of our citizens will have the chance to travel and work together and know each other. American companies are starting to do business in Cuba. Helping to nurture private enterprise and giving Cuban entrepreneurs new opportunities. With new Wi-Fi hotspots, more Cubans are starting to go online and get information from the outside world. In both our countries, there's overwhelming support for this new relationship. And in Cuba today, for the first time in a half-century, there is hope for a different future. Especially among Cuba's young people who have such extraordinary talent and potential just waiting to be unleashed. My visit will be an opportunity to keep moving forward. I'll meet with President Castro. To discuss how we can continue normalizing relations. Including making it easier to trade and easier for Cubans to access the internet and start their own businesses. As I did when I met President Castro last year. I'll speak candidly about our serious differences with the Cuban government, including on democracy and human rights. I'll reaffirm that the United States will continue to stand up for universal values like freedom of speech and assembly and religion. I'll meet with members of Cuba's civil society, courageous men and women who give voice to the aspirations of the Cuban people. I'll meet with Cuban entrepreneurs to learn how we can help them start new ventures. And I'll speak directly to the Cuban people about the values we share. And how I believe we can be partners as they work for the future they want.